afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this ceremony where we've gathered together to remember and to celebrate the life of Ian Pearson. A dearly loved husband, dad, grandpa, brother and uncle. Sorry, the music should have been switched off. As well as a great friend and a colleague to so many. My name's Janet Hamilton and I'm a celebrant from the Humanist Society Scotland. And having met with Ian's wife Margaret, son Clark and daughter Jenny, I know he was a man who certainly made the most of his own life, but at the same time he was genuinely caring, loving and supportive to those around him. And this is in keeping with humanist philosophy that we only live one life and that we should certainly make the most of that whilst being tolerant towards and caring for one another and the world that we live in. There'll not be any hymns or prayers today, but we will have a wee moment or two of quiet reflection when you can all remember Ian in your own private way. I hope you'll find this ceremony to be sincere, dignified and meaningful, and a genuine reflection of the unique and the special man that Ian was and what he meant to those of you who were closest to him. His passing has been such a blow to his family, and I know their sense of loss is huge. He was a dearly loved husband to Margaret for 52 years, dad to Clark and Jenny, grandpa to Aaron, Maggie, Ian, Corrie and Oren, brother to Isabel and Donald, and an uncle to his wider family. And along with Margaret, he was also fond of and happy to welcome Jenny's partner Matt and Clark's partner Cassie into the family. I hope that by having you all here, by spending time together to celebrate the man that he was, and by sharing some of your good memories of him, will all be a comfort to you. And from what I now know of him, Ian was a pragmatic man whom I'm sure knew you would be sad and would miss him. However, he certainly wouldn't have wanted you to dwell in your grief, but to move forward and try to make the most of your own lives, enriched as they are by having known him. And before we have our tribute to him, let's have some words specially chosen for today by our local and national bard, Robert Burns. These have been chosen in reflection of Ian's great love for the works of Burns and the natural world around him, and as they tell us to enjoy the pleasures that this world offers, as they, like life itself, are so often short. But pleasures are like poppies spread. You seize the flower its bloom is shed, or like the snow falls in the river, a moment white, then melts forever, or like the borealis race that flick ere you can point their place, or like the rainbow's lovely form vanishing amid the storm. Nae man can tether time nor tide. So let's now take some time together to remember and to celebrate Ian's life. I never had the privilege of meeting him, but having met with Margaret, Clark and Jenny, I can certainly appreciate the strength of his character and the impression that he made on those that he was close to. So he was born on the 13th of May 1945 in Cumnock, and Ian was the first child of Morag and William Pearson. At the time of his birth, his father was still serving overseas with the Royal Navy. His sister Isabel came along in 1947 and his brother Donald in 1950, and Ian was lucky to be part of an extended and supportive family. He attended Cumnock Academy where he excelled in sports and received prizes for athletics, cricket and football. He also learned to play the violin and always said he might have been quite an accomplished violinist if it hadn't been for the negative comments he got from other pupils when he was walking about with his wee violin case. And on top of that, there was his music teacher's flatulence. As a boy and into adulthood, his great passion was football. And Isabel remembers watching the Queen's coronation at the Ritchie House as they were the only ones with a TV. Ian and the twins were playing football in the hall when Ian, aged 8 at this time, knocked the clock off the mantelpiece and it smashed. with the result that old Watty the grandpa was heard to say, "Good left fit that boy." Ian was a competent player. He had trials with Kilmarnock FC and was selected for the Scotland under-18 soccer side playing against Wales. On the morning of the game, he was to get the 7 a.m. bus from New Cumnock. The bus didn't come. There he was, all dressed in his team blazer, flannels, tie, coat, etc. Fortunately, 2 men passing by did give him a lift. However, they were picking someone up at Skiers, but the car ran out of petrol 3 miles out of Cumnock. He ran all the way back to Cumnock to phone and get his dad's car and keys. And Ian had only just passed his test, but he did manage to drive to Glasgow, and he just managed to get the train. Margaret asked him how on earth he'd managed to play after all that, and all he said was, "Och, I was fine. I played no too bad." Meanwhile, in 1960, his dad was appointed as headmaster at Cairnhill Primary School, but sadly, just before the move, they lost their mum at the age of just 43. Ian and his dad were called to the hospital in the middle of the night, and although he was only 16, he tried to help with his distraught father and 2 younger siblings. And the people of New Cumnock were very considerate to the family at this difficult time, and Ian was hugely supported by his friends, who remained loyal throughout his life. Ian himself missed nearly a year of school through illness relating to the chronic condition which was to plague him for the rest of his life. And following that, it was decided he should leave school and join the bank. He started as a tea boy with what was then the old National Commercial Bank and now the Royal Bank of Scotland. Ian was a high achiever, and he soon became personal assistant to the local director, and he then became local director for Glasgow and the west of Scotland, in charge of over 2,000 staff, and he made many friends through his work. Ian was very instrumental in promoting female staff to management positions. He had to fight very hard in the boardroom to get them to be called bank managers, as the rest of the board were against it. But of course he won the fight. He was from Cumnock after all. Ian decided to take early retirement from banking at age 54, as he didn't like the direction the bank was going in at the time. However, he didn't retire from work, but instead went on to be the general manager of the Royal Faculty of Procurators in Glasgow, where again he made many friends. And meanwhile, in 1966, Ian was to get together with Cumnock girl Margaret. They'd been at a party and were going back to a friend's house when Margaret's friend Maureen told her she'd be going with Ian Pearson. She wasn't too keen on this idea at first, but it must have charmed her, as they had been inseparable thereafter. They were married in 1970, just before Margaret's 21st birthday, and he was always loving and supportive, but maybe not what you'd call a great romantic. Margaret's family remembers one occasion when they were on holiday in Lanzarote, and when Margaret was walking on ahead, Ian was heard to make the comment, "Margaret, you're a braw-looking woman for the back." They settled into married life, and things got even better when Clark came along in 1974, followed by Jenny in 1976. Both tell me he was a wonderful, supportive father who always gave them advice but never imposed his views on them. They've many happy memories of family times together, including holidays to Millport, Paynton, Scarborough and Cornwall, and unusually for the late 70s and early 80s to foreign destinations like Brittany, Ibiza and even 2 trips to Florida. Clark tells me they were some of the first kids they knew to go in a plane, and he remembers when asked to give a talk at school about his trip to Florida. For a while they had a towing caravan, and in spite of Ian not maybe being the best of drivers, they would go to the Highlands, including Glencoe, where the caravan was finally retired to. Clark remembers a time when he was a wee boy and they were on holiday in the UK. He'd got a new bladder ball which he kept kicking into the sea, and his dad kept going to get it back for him. However, one time he kicked it under the pier, and he remembers his dad bravely climbing down the pier in the crashing waves to retrieve the ball for him. A special memory that Jenny has of when she was a wee girl and didn't sleep well as she was afraid of the dark. If she went to her mum and dad's room, Margaret would march her back to her own bed, so she used to try and crawl past her to get to her dad, and she'd stroke his eyebrows the wrong way, or try opening his eyes till he awoke, and he would let her crawl in beside him for a cuddle. Ian was proud of both his children and everything they achieved. He was supporting and encouraging towards not just to them, but to all young people, and he gave a lot of time to this, both in his work and with his other interests. The family moved about a bit as a result of Ian's work, living in Kilmarnock, Fenwick, Glasgow and Chester, and then returning to Glasgow before Ian and Margaret ultimately retired to Ayr. Retirement gave him more time for hobbies. Ian's interest in football continued throughout his life. He was a lifelong supporter of Ayr United, and he regularly went to see them play. And when the team were in the doldrums a number of years ago, he worked closely with friends to try and turn their financial situation around. On the Saturday, 2 days before he passed away, his family visited him in hospital. He tried to speak, and they realised he was asking about the football score, which was 2-1 to Ayr United against Morton. He managed to smile, and they could tell he was working out what that would mean for Ayr in the championship. Other sporting interests were playing tennis and, of course, golf. He was a member of golf clubs in both Glasgow and Chester, and Ian played golf until quite recently at Prestwick and on the local municipal courses, and again he did make many friends through this. He was also a long-standing and committed member of Newcomnock Burns Club and was a past president, a title that's also been held by his dad and his brother Donald. And again, he made so many friends there. Ian always appreciated the works of Burns, and this is reflected in 2 of the poems that are being read today. However, above all in retirement, what Ian enjoyed was spending time with his family, which in more recent years has included his 5 wonderful grandchildren. He and Margaret made several trips to visit Clark and his family, Aaron, Maggie, and Ian in California, and they would come to Scotland on a regular basis. And he also loved to see Jenny's children, Corrie and Oren, who lived nearby, and all of his grandchildren loved him dearly. As with Clark and Jenny, all have fond memories of Friday night treats, usually ice cream, and more often than not, a single nugget. Jenny's partner Matt and Clark's partner Cassie wouldn't have passed muster if they hadn't enjoyed one of those. 7 years ago, at the time of his 70th birthday, Ian had a liver transplant, and this undoubtedly gave him a new lease of life. He never complained, and he did continue to live a full life until his health started to decline in more recent times. Ian was a wonderful, loving, supporting and caring husband, dad, granddad, brother and uncle, and he will be so sadly missed by his family and by the many others whose lives he touched in his full and fulfilling life. And now, to conclude our tribute to him, I'd like to ask his brother Donald to read some words again by Robert Burns, which are so appropriate for a man like Ian.
Thank you for these wonderful words, bringing back so many memories for us all. And thank you for coming, because really Ian appreciated the support of his family, who have been fantastic to him and really couldn't have done more for him, but also his friends throughout his life, who he highly valued. And his friends, he kept his friends for such a long part of his life, and they were so important to him. So thank you very much for coming. That was a bit off-piste, by the way, so I apologise if I'm running over time. Ian would have given me a row at this point. Epitaph to a friend and brother. An honest man here lies at rest, as goodness with his image blessed. The friend of man, the friend of truth, the friend of age, the guide of youth. Few hearts like his with virtue warmed, few heads with knowledge so informed. If there's another world, he lives in bliss. If there is none, he made the best of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. And now we are going to have that quiet moment or two of reflection that I mentioned earlier. This will give you all the chance to remember Ian in your own personal way. And whilst we do so, we'll listen to a very appropriate piece of music that we know you always enjoyed. Aria by Acapulco. So we have now arrived at the time where we do need to say our final farewell to Ian. Everything he gave you and everything he meant to you remains. But today we do need to say goodbye to that part of him that cannot remain with us as we commit his body to rejoin that great cycle of nature. So can I ask if you're able to please stand? To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose on earth, a time to be born and a time to die. Although today we're deeply sad that Ian is no longer with us, we'll always be grateful for the good and the many happy times we shared. We'll never forget the look of his face and his smile, and the sound of his voice and his laughter. And today we commit those things to our memories and his love and friendship to our hearts. Here, in this last act, in sorrow but without fear, with respect, love and appreciation, we now commit Ian's body to its final end to rejoin the great cycle of nature. Let's remember Ian is at peace and without pain. Please take your seats. So I hope these memories that we have shared with Ian have enabled you to smile at least a little. I hope you have been able to remember him with a sense of warmth and calm as you reflect on the special man that he was and the connection he had to you. Margaret and all of his family would like to say a very special thanks to everyone for their expressions of sympathy at this difficult time, and to thank those of you who are here today for coming along to support them, to pay your last respects, and as far as is possible in the circumstances, to help them celebrate Ian's full life. And I have to say, the number of you have turned out today simply speaks for itself. Anyone who can make it's now welcome to join them back at the Fairfield House in Ayr for some refreshments. And I hope once you're there, you'll be able to share many of the happy memories that Ian has left with you, and these will stay with you in the years to come. And if you are able to go along, please make your way directly so that Ian's family can more readily thank those who cannot make it to the Fairfield. As we leave here today in Ian's memory, there'll be a collection for a very appropriate charity, the Scottish Liver Transplant Unit in Edinburgh. And if you can't donate today but would like to do so, you can do this via their website. Also, as we exit, we'll hear another piece of music that's been specially chosen and which we know he liked. Days by Ray Davis and the Coral Collection. But before that, and to start bringing our ceremony to a conclusion, I'd like to read a poem which I believe sums up how Ian himself would have wanted you to think of him today. You can shed tears that he's gone, or you can smile because he's lived. You can close your eyes and hope he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that is left. Your heart can be empty because you cannot see him, or it can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he's going, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want. Open your eyes, laugh, love, and press on. So thanks again, everyone, for being here to remember and to celebrate Ian's life. I wish you all a safe and carefree onward journey, not just today, but as you go down your own paths in life. Thank you.
Thank you for the days, those endless days of sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the days I won't forget a single day, believe me. I bless the light, I bless the light that shines on you, believe me. just brings sorrow anyway. Thank you for the you're with me every single day.